Today, we're going to talk about databases and basic SQL queries. Now, everywhere you go, you're running into databases. If you're a student who's trying to pick the course that you're going to take next semester, you're going to an online course catalog that's pulling the list of courses from a database. If you approach your academic advisor, they're going to pull up your record. They're pulling it from another database. Anyone who develops a website or develops an application is going to use a database to store all their information because it makes the data storage and the data retrieval so much easier. Now, with a database, you're going to interact with it through basic SQL queries. Well, I should say some of them are basic, some of them get very, very complicated. But today we're just going to look at a basic example. Now, your standard everyday run-of-the-mill SQL query is going to have three elements. The first is your select statement. For each record, there are multiple columns of information. You don't necessarily need every single column that's there. You might only need certain columns. Next is your from statement. That's where you tell the database what specific table you're pulling that data from. Third is your where statement, and that's a filter. It's actually optional. You don't really need a where statement if you want to see every record that exists in your database. That might be too many records though. That might be way more information than you need. You might have specific criteria that indicates which records you're looking for. So you put those in the where statement. Now, as an example to get an idea of what we're doing with the SQL language, today we're going to turn into digital cowboys. Now we're going to saddle up. We're going to ride out to our ranch and we're going to look at our database. So we get to our ranch and we see an open field surrounded by a fence, and all our livestock are milling around in that field. It's kind of an open plan, free range livestock, if you will. Inside that field, we have three different types of livestock. First, we have our cattle. Second, we have some horses. And third, we've got a few emu as well, because those eggs make a great omelet. Now, that field, that fence, that is a representation of our database. Inside our database, what we would see is a column that indicates what type of livestock each animal is. So some of them are going to say cattle, some of them are going to be horses, and a few are going to be emu. Now the next column is going to indicate what type of cattle, what type of horse, because they're not all the same. Some of our cattle are Angus, some of them are Jersey, some of our horses are Arabians, some of our horses are Appaloosas. We're going to specify in a table what type they are. Now the third column is the age of the animal. They haven't all been around for the same amount of time. The fourth column, that's going to be where we store the animal's name. That way we can specify each specific creature. Now, just last night, we got an order in from a customer. They want to buy every Jersey cow that we have that's under 3 years of age. So if we were going to put together a list to show which cattle we have that are jerseys that are under 3 years of age, we would go into our select statement. We don't necessarily need to know that it's a cow, so we're not going to select that. But we will probably select that it's a Jersey, or the column that describes what kind of cattle it is. We'll select the column that indicates how old it is, and we'll select the cow's name. That way, when we read down through the list, we can make sure that we've gotten each specific animal. In our from statement, we're going to reference our ranch, our table where all of our livestock are stored. Now the third thing, the tricky part here, is going to be our where statement. There's a lot that we can do to make our where statement run efficiently. And if you think of us as being cowboys that are going out and looking and selecting the specific livestock, then it makes it a little bit easier to understand the efficiencies. For example, the first criteria that we put in really shouldn't be the age, because if we put the age in first, that means that the server has to look at each and every record and compare the age. That's like having the cowboy ride up to each and every cow, each and every horse, each and every emu to see if they're old enough or not. Why would we check the age of emus and the horses when they're not what we need? And especially the value evaluation of each livestock being under 3 years, that's time consuming for the server, just like it would be time consuming for the cowboy to have to climb down out of the saddle, walk up to the animal, and check the tag to see what the birth date of that animal is. So we want to do that check on as few animals as possible. Now what we could do, we could check to see which animals are cows first, right? Because then that would cut out about half of our results would just be gone. Then we could check through the cows to see which ones are jerseys. That's actually a pretty reasonable way to do it. But what that means is that you're looking through each and every animal to see if it's a cow, and then of the cows, which is about half of the animals, you're looking through to see if they're a jersey or not. It would be slightly more efficient if we just check to see if they're a jersey. Because then, just like looking to see if they're a cow, we're going to have to look through every single animal once, but we cut out that second step of reviewing just the cows to see if they're a jersey. And if you think about it from a cowboy standpoint, they're only going to rope the jerseys and pull them off to the side anyway. They're not going to rope the Anguses. They can easily tell that from the get-go. So this visualization of a cowboy kind of helps us understand the efficiency and see the effect. So in our where statement, the most efficient way we could do this would be to say only where the record indicates a jersey, and then only when that jersey is under 3 years old. That's our efficient method of searching through our livestock. Now I use SQL queries pretty much every day at work. I've been able to take some very rough SQL queries that pulled in every single column and then hadn't been made efficient in their where statement. They used to take 30 minutes for the server to pull in all the records that met all the criteria. Now, after some simple efficiencies, I've gotten them down to 3 seconds. It's a huge improvement. So today, I hope you've been able to see the impact that databases have on your everyday life, and I hope you've learned a little bit about standard query language, SQL, the basic way to pull information from a database. And remember, we talked about 3 elements: the select statement, the from statement, and the where statement. Thank you.